The statement that art is subjective has been running laps in my mind as of late. I think it comes from seeing how different fans of various mediums of art feel about this very idea. It seems the community of people who are into your traditional art forms such as painting, drawing, sculpting, and so on are pretty accepting of the idea that art is subjective, while I have noticed large portions of the gaming and film communities are more abrasive to the idea. Now, I love all sorts of forms of art, so hearing all these opinions has led me to question this statement, which I pretty much just accepted as fact for so long. My conclusion was that yes, art in all of its various forms is subjective, but I want to share my personal newfound insights into why I actually believe this, why I feel it's important in the first place, and even what subjectivity means when it comes to art. I want to start off by saying I will be focusing this video primarily around film, so that this video is consistent and on topic, as trying to come to a central conclusion when having to discuss Discworld, Saturn Devouring His Son, Casablanca, and Puyo Puyo Tetris. I mean, I could do that if I really wanted to, but it would definitely be a mess. Anyways, a good starting point is really talking about what art is. I won't suggest a single true definition for art. I'm doubtful that that's even possible. But a general statement that I think encompasses art is a person's thoughts, feelings, experiences, etc. expressed creatively. Art is fundamentally people communicating a part of themselves. Now, this can be an incredibly psychological deep dive into their innermost turmoil, or just that they really like cars. Now, despite how that sounds, I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. These are all just parts of different people. To show how this relates to subjectivity, think about your friends. Did you choose to be friends with them because they were objectively the correct people to be friends with? Probably not. It's usually because you have found some way to form a connection to them, whether through similar hobbies, morals, sense of humor, or any number of things. I'm also sure there are people you can think of who are wonderful people with many admirable qualities, but you're just not friends with them. Maybe someone just annoys you personally for some random reason, even though they're not doing anything objectively incorrect or morally wrong. But then what about people or movies that you can see as absolutely morally corrupt? Well, I will get more into that later, but most people aren't horrible. They are just trying their best. The point I am making is that movies are a representation of a person, and just as there is no right answer for who the best person to be friends with is, there's no right answer for the best movies, as is based on this personal connection and impact. Sure, there are movies that more people like or praise more than others, but that doesn't make it objectively better. It's just more charismatic, you could say. It connects to more people, and it just generally has characteristics that most people can connect with. I could keep going on with this by using the example of, is there an objectively saddest thing someone can experience? No, so why would there be an objectively most emotionally impactful movie? Now, I think talking about subjectivity in terms of emotion probably isn't going to convince very many people, as I think there is a common view that subjectivity comes from a place of emotion. People will often talk about being objective and unbiased as only possible if you remove any personal emotions. I also notice that most people that believe movies are largely objective will focus more on talking about a movie being deep or intelligent, and telling people that don't like the movies that they just don't get it. So let me get into why I think that is a pretty stupid thing to say. I apologize for being so frank, but I really can't stand when people say that. Let's take the Emoji Movie. Most people don't like this movie, myself included, and don't get why someone would like it. It's riddled with product placement. It's just a continuous string of cliche to cliche. The core message is the same be yourself message that so many children's films have done before and have done better before. So how could someone like this? Well, maybe hypothetically, and this is very, very hypothetically, this someone has not seen very many movies or experienced many stories in general at all, so they don't really know these cliches. The product placement might have just gone over their head and just didn't think about it. Maybe they are at a point in their life where being told to be yourself is exactly what they needed to hear and is actually incredibly impactful. Now, I'm not saying I'm a fan of the Emoji Movie, not even a little, but with a little imagination, I can see how someone could enjoy it. Now, let's look at this type of person who says, you just don't get it. They would probably be a fan of The Godfather, let's say. I'm just using that as an example because I haven't seen it, and therefore I have no feelings one way or another. Anyways, this person should probably do some reflecting and think maybe there are problems with this movie that go over my head, and I don't notice because I'm not even thinking about them. Maybe someone that doesn't like this movie has just seen so many other movies with similar themes and it feels cliche to them, or even literal life experiences that has already taught them all the things that the themes of this movie are trying to say. This would make the ideas in The Godfather not profound or unique in the slightest. And you know what? Sure, maybe people really aren't smart enough to see the greatness in The Godfather, but in that case, how do you know that you aren't missing something in the movies that you don't like because you aren't smart enough for the specific things they are trying to say? The point I want to make is that intelligence isn't a singular scale. Even the sort of multiple intelligences charts I see are still an oversimplification of the fact that everyone knows different things, has had different experiences to different degrees, and life is so complex, humans are so complex, that we can't simply say, I'm smart, so I see what's good in this movie, and if you don't, you are dumb. You may just be smart in the specific areas that applies to The Godfather, for example, but it's also possible that other people are so quote-unquote smart or well-versed in the ideas of The Godfather that it seems simple or generic to them. Ultimately, what I'm saying is that every single person will find different movies smart or emotional to different extents, and you can go on and apply these same concepts with other positive or negative traits a movie can possess. There are reasons why someone would reasonably disagree with a trait, mostly because we are human with entirely unique human experiences. This is what I mean when I say movies are subjective. We are not mass-produced or computers identically calculating the exact things that make a movie good or bad. We are people. Each of us have lived our lives in such different ways, making decisions and having experiences that makes you who you are. So the idea that a piece of art being a representation of another person's experiences, decisions, and mentalities, and is then partaken by another complex human being with their own decisions and ideas and their own life story could be objectively good or bad is frankly baffling. There are lots of valid counterarguments a person could bring up to support art being objective, or at least more objective than what I personally believe, so I will try to address some of the ones that came to my mind. I briefly mentioned the idea that a movie might be able to be objectively immoral, so I'll start there. While yes, I do believe a movie can be morally corrupt, I also believe these cases are so uncommon it's nearly irrelevant. The only movie that immediately comes to my mind is Birth of a Nation from 1915, a film that is just propaganda for the KKK. This is very obviously a morally wrong film, but most of the time it's not as obvious as this case. Morality is difficult, this is an extreme understatement, but I don't think most people truly believe there is one singular way to be morally good. We all need to try to use our knowledge and our personal skills to make a positive impact in our own way, but we naturally make mistakes. We are human, we all have good and bad in us, and this is reflected in art. I find that whenever someone claims a movie is morally corrupt, they focus on one or two things that really anger them and ignore everything else. I believe that almost all movies which promote a moral message contain something you do agree with if you look for it. And even the ideas you don't agree with, ask yourself, is it truly immoral or just incorrect for your life and the world you live in specifically? I'm not saying to just ignore everything bad or that you don't like in a movie, but just to take a step back, see the big picture and think critically. So ultimately, yes, the morality of a film can be seen as objective, but it is so complicated and simply so human that it's functionally subjective. And all of this is putting aside the fact that so many movies aren't pushing a moral message and aren't focused on morality in general and are more about just simply showing an idea or feeling. The next counter-argument I am going to tackle is talking about the raw skill required to create a piece of art. It seems obvious that some works are results of clearly greater skill, technique, time, effort, or simply raw talent. I cannot outright disagree with this, but to show my perspective, I'll use the example of a perfect circle. Drawing an absolutely 100% perfect circle unaided is an incredible display of skill, but that doesn't make it impactful or meaningful. I use this example because people often talk about talent or skill in art as being able to create something realistic, whether it be realistic images, dialogue, visual effects, or logical storytelling. Art that is made to be realistic isn't necessarily great just because it is realistic, but because the realism aids the greater idea or theme. But sometimes staying within reality only inhibits the artist's vision of what they want to communicate. The point I want to make is that what's more important than the process of creating the art is how well it communicates its ideas. It is sometimes necessary to be more absurd, more abstract when creating an artwork for it to truly be what it's meant to be and to truly say what it's meant to say. An artist could simply not be as good at their respective art form, but if their ideas and feelings come through regardless, I wonder if it really matters as much. Any piece of art that I am personally really passionate about has flaws in skill that I can recognize, as is the case with every piece of art ever. None are perfect, but we love them regardless. This shows to me that clearly if something resonates with us enough, these mistakes don't affect how good we think something is. Still, we should not completely disregard the skill and effort put into a film, as there is a much greater discussion to be had about all of that if you choose to do so. And I will still admit, yes, lots of times flaws do really hinder our experience. But the fact is that these flaws have differing levels of distaste caused depending on who is watching or partaking of the art. This only further feeds into the idea that these pieces of art as a whole are subjective. Closely relating to this discussion is the whole other discussion to be had about how much significance we should place on plot holes. The fact that people seem to care so differently about plot holes seems to tell me that it is once again subjective. It depends person to person, film to film. This feeds into my points on skill. People who love a certain film won't care about plot holes. Those who hate it will obsess over them. I do feel like most of the time when people critique a film for its plot holes, there's usually some deeper flaw they take issue with, but pointing out the plot holes is the easiest way to convey how they feel. Something is taking them out of the experience, leading their thoughts to wander, and because they already feel negatively about the film, they find plot holes. This certainly isn't always the case. Plot holes can be your core issue with something. This is a video encouraging subjective thoughts and feelings, but I feel it's important to not use plot holes as a scapegoat when critiquing a story. The last point I'd like to address in this section where I'm talking about counterarguments isn't actually a counterargument, but rather just clarifying my thoughts on the death of the author. While the concept that an author's or artist's intention with a piece doesn't matter as much as a personal interpretation may seem to contribute to the subjective argument, I really don't agree with it, at least not completely. While I do think it is important to emphasize one's personal, subjective experience, to ignore what the artist's vision was is a grave mistake. I have stated multiple times before that a piece of art is functionally a piece of a person. Art is a medium for communication. It allows us to transfer ideas and emotions in a more abstract way rather than just stating them. Communication does not work if you ignore context, intent, or simply come up with your own meaning for what someone else is trying to say. The part that is subjective about movies is how you feel about what is communicated and how effectively it is communicated to you personally. You can have your own ideas to build on top of what has been shown to you, and I even encourage this. But to ignore the artist defeats a large purpose of art, which is to be able to see a glimpse of the world out of eyes that are not your own, to learn, grow, and be able to reshape how you think. If the only meaning you get out of a film comes from your own mind, the film didn't do much more than remind you what and how you already think, or something you have already learned. I admit some films are simply difficult. They are a tangled webs of ideas seemingly impossible to find the author's intent. In these cases, I try to see the whole, the main idea, the thesis statement of the movie, or even just the idea of it summed up in a single word to focus on. You can have your own interpretations building off from there, but don't force these. Listen to the author, learn what you can, then decide how you feel. I could say more, spend more time pushing my argument further, but even if we all accept that art is subjective, who cares? Why does it matter? What difference does it make? A significant one, I would say. If art is truly objective, then the great boon that is communication loses its luster. Why would we choose to express our feelings about films? Why do we think what we have to say matters if there is a singular, objective answer to how we should feel about each and every film? Observe people who are all in on movies being objective. They each think they know what is objectively good and bad, despite the fact that each of their tastes differ so much. Why don't we all leave the discussion for professional movie critics or people that work within the industry? If movies are objective, then it would be like a science where our trust lies those who are the most qualified individuals rather than what someone on the internet says. We'd all be fools for having these discussions, talking about things we have no professional training for. But we aren't fools. It is okay. This all makes sense if you simply realize that movies are subjective. I have feelings and they matter. Others have their own feelings and they matter as well. Art grants us the ability to observe life from the perspective of others, so why should we restrict this when it comes to discussion of art? Why should we not see the perspective of others when we discuss it? A movie shows the perspective of the artist, but we can go further by listening to the many perspectives on the movie. A huge part of loving movies for me is sharing my opinions and hearing the opinions of others, and then really diving deep into why we have these opinions. Getting into that nitty-gritty that allows us to understand one another better. The idea that art is objective destroys any purpose of the wider discussion that art can offer beyond what the art itself has to say. These discussions shouldn't be used to argue who's right or wrong, but rather to better understand each other and our differences, our humanity. If these differences truly don't matter, then we have no purpose in making art in the first place. If we choose to believe there are objective qualities that make a film good, we might as well feed these properties into a computer and let an AI pump out mindless slop. Because it wouldn't be distracted by this supposedly needless subjectivity and is much better at being objective than a human. We wouldn't need artistic innovation, simply better AI that can identify the objective facts and then construct content that is most pleasing to the masses. I don't want to make it out as if I believe the mindset that art is objective will lead to the AI takeover, but at this time when AI is a growing threat, the ability to identify what makes human art, real art, so special becomes more and more crucial. This video isn't meant to be the end-all be-all of the discussion of subjectivity in relation to art. I will continue to ponder and wonder about these things for the rest of my life. It is a very abstract concept, especially if you are with me in believing it's subjective. But my main point is that I want people to be more willing to listen to others and to share their own true thoughts, uninfluenced by expectations of being right or wrong. I hope I have convinced some of you that this is at least a discussion worth being had. If you agree with me, please add to this discussion in the comments. If you disagree and think movies and art are objective, or at least more objective than what I have made them out to be, feel free to tell me why and prove me wrong. But remember, that's just your opinion.